Guys, I'm going to show you how to use your knights effectively. Here we go. So I started with d4. My opponent played d5, and I played the queen's gambit. My opponent played the queen's gambit declined with e6. And now I played this opening called a Catalan, which is one of my favorite openings. I really like to put the bishop on g2, which also makes this other bishop uncomfortable. So after g3, my opponent played bishop b4 check. I blocked my bishop, and they took. Now I decide to develop my minor piece and recapture with knight takes d2. He castled, and I played bishop g2. And I'm very happy with my position. All the pieces are very complementary to each other. This knight's protecting the pawn. I'm ready to castle. This knight's in a great position. It's ready to jump to e5. My opponent here played c6. Now this move is kind of suspicious because this bishop is kind of locked in, but it's solid. I castled. He played b6. Okay, so he has a plan. He's going to go bishop to b7 and kind of counter my ideas with c5. So I developed my minor pieces now. What's left to develop? Well, we have the queen and the rooks. So the queen, I have the saying I tell the kids when I teach, queen up a little, rook to the middle. So queen up a little, plays this. Okay, now this move was actually kind of suspicious because it opens up my bishop, and here I have two recaptures. Now, we're going to get to a point where I'm explaining how to use your knights, right? So knights really like to be in this zone. So I took knight takes c4. The secret to using your knights really well is to put them in the center, and the higher up they go, the better they get, the more dangerous they get. Okay, so keep that idea in mind while we continue this game. My opponent played bishop here. Now remember, queen up a little, rook to the middle, rook to the middle. Pretty clean move. And the reason why I'm playing like this is because I like to put my rooks opposite the opponent's king or the queen, because when the pawns clear out, it's going to be a discard attack. My opponent played queen e7. Now I played my last piece into the game, rook c1. I love this. Look at how healthy and clean this setup is. Every piece is doing a really good job and ready for battle. Okay, so the reason I put my rooks like this is because I know that I have more space, and my opponent will try to break free with the move like c5. Now, when they break free, I know my rooks are going to open up immediately, and I have the time advantage. Okay, my opponent got a little impatient here. He played c5, which is a mistake. Now I took, queen takes. And now, can you guess the move here? How do you use your knights effectively? Remember what I said, right? The farther up the knights go, the stronger they get. So here, I played knight d6. A really good move. A knight's best rank is the 6th rank if you're playing white, and the 3rd rank if you're playing black. The reason is because it hits the most critical squares in the opponent's territory. They're already feeling uncomfortable. One other tip I have for you guys is make sure that your knight's supported. Here the rook's supporting the knight, and there's no pawn in the way. So this is kind of like an outpost. So when you think of knights, think of outposts, a safe, stable square with support and aggressive spot in the opponent's camp. So now opponent played queen takes queen because it was under attack. I took back, and now bishop d5. A good move. Again, in this position, I use my knights effectively. This knight's okay, but it might get kicked out next. So I need to do something about it. I actually decided to improve my other knight. Again, post it up to a pretty good post in the center, knight e5. Knight's looking pretty. So now I'm attacking the bishop as well, and they're getting active, right? This knight's covering all these squares, and this knight is covering all these squares. You can feel how aggressive that is, right? And they're complementing each other too. Okay, so opponent took my bishop. I took with the king. And now, if he goes like knight d7 here, I'm probably going to, I won't spoil it fully, but he didn't want to go here because I could probably take and go rook c7 is one idea, or there's another move which I'm not going to show. He played knight a6. Now, this is what you shouldn't do with the knights, by the way. Computer says it's okay, but it's a big mistake. If it thinks deeper, it hates this move, actually. You should not put your knights on the rim. Maybe he thought that he could bounce off to an outpost kind of position, but this square is actually not an outpost because I have a pawn that can hit the knight in the future. And this square is also not an outpost because I have a pawn, and I knew that, right? So black can't kick out my knight with their pawns that easily, right? But I can. So in this position, I played another really good move. Try to guess it. Knight c6. A very pretty move. Knights side by side. Look at this knight. It's covering all of these squares. There's a lot of fork ideas. And this knight is covering all of these squares. There's so much space control. There's no way for the rooks to move. Isn't that incredible? The rooks can't move anywhere. If you can't go anywhere here, and there's also a lot of fork ideas with knight e7 check as well. The rook can't move anywhere. Black is almost out of moves. So, and if he goes here, I can kick the knight out. And if he goes here, I can kick the knight out like this. So he just panicked and played knight e8. But again, knights don't like to be in this zone. If you think of the chessboard as a pizza, you want to avoid the crust and try to be in the cheesy middle. So this, he wants to trade. Should I trade? Of course not. I played knight b5, declined the trade, and hitting this pawn instead. Again, knights are in active positions, attacking the opponent's camp. And now, again, he has no moves. He can't go anywhere. So he played h5, just giving some king room, I guess. I mean, and now this is a really elegant move that I played. I noticed that I'm not in a hurry, right? And the only thing he could do is either bring his knight back here or bring his knight over here. And I thought, I could take my sweet time here. I played pawn a3. And this is actually the number one move according to the engine. Can you believe this move, a3? If they play knight c5, I can play b4, and the knight has to go back. If he goes here, again, I can kick the knight out if I want to. I can play f3. I can take the pawn. There's so many good moves I can play. The knight has no stable squares, right? So here, he played back knight f6, and now I played b4, getting more space. Again, I don't even need my knight to be here because if the rook goes here, there's always going to be a fork. So then, in this position, after being under pressure for so many moves, my opponent actually just blundered with knight c7. And funny thing is, this gives up a whole knight, but Stockfish says your position was so bad, it's only a slightly worse move. And he resigned. So I hope you really like this game. The knights like to be in those amazing squares in the 5th and 6th rank. They have to be stable. Try to keep them side by side if you can, and how brutal it can be. My opponent didn't make a single blunder in this whole game. And I didn't make any brilliant moves either, but I just won.